Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to Open Money out there in Blog Talk Radio land, namely Heath and Therese at the moment, and Michael, who is working on bringing the Ustream back up. Michael, have you got it yet?
No, it crashed, and it is now seeking to reconnect, but it's not quite succeeded yet.
Okay.
Oh, wait, can't connect to selected server. There it is. Yes.
Anyway, we're trying to be very, very clever here with this Blog Talk Radio show because we have some pictures to show as well. And Michael's in his studio a few blocks from here. And he's got a camera, and the whole thing is going through the camera at the moment. And there he is. So if you wanted to check it out on Ustream.tv, Open Money. That's Open Money on Ustream.tv. Michael, you there?
Ernie, I am here.
I see you.
Here in several forms. There's live streaming voice on Blog Talk Radio. We've got live streaming on Ustream.tv/openmoney with a delay of about 5 seconds and some occasional interrupts as the system freezes for a few seconds and then re-begins. This is very much a test broadcast. We're trying to find out how this thing works, and it is also being taped locally on a high-definition DV so that we can subsequently post that as a more powerful and editable version of the proceedings. In due course, there won't be microphones hanging around my neck. There won't be earphones stuck in my ear. Oh, and I see it's gone again. My streaming has gone. Okay. Well, I'm going to give it one more try.
This is the Now of Money take two.
Yeah, who else is online here?
Cosmic is with us. Cosmic Tree is with us.
Cosmic.
And your Ustream is gone, right?
Yeah, my Ustream is currently down at the moment.
And when it was up, your voice was breaking up.
On Ustream.
On
and
Ustream,
it wasn't before.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Cosmic Tree says, "You sound great. Good going." This is Therese.
Well, is Therese in our voice contact on Blog Talk? Is she dialed into Blog Talk?
Not yet. She's on the chat, and she hasn't called in. I'll ask her. Well, you can hear us, right, Therese? Are you going to call in, or do we call you? How do you want to do this? All right, so Therese is going to Skype us.
That's good.
So she will join us in a moment. Just a sec. Okay, so Michael, the Now of Money. Might as well start talking about that while Therese is calling in.
Well, I'm still relaunching my broadcaster as I'm determined to get this thing working. And I don't see why it stopped. Well, It's now restarting. And I think we have a connection. We do. And I'm going to start the broadcast on that connection. The broadcast
This is like the early days of radio. Do you remember the early days of radio, Michael?
I'm not that old, Ernie. Not quite that old. But I do remember.
But we've heard them.
We have all systems are now going again. Isn't that exciting?
Yes.
So, the Now of Money. There's what?
Hi, Therese.
What?
Hello, Therese.
Can you hear me?
Listen.
I can hear you, but faintly.
Oh, darn. Okay.
Oh, darn.
I hear you very clearly. You sound real fine to me, Therese. It's clear as a bell.
Okay.
Okay.
At least about as good as Ernie.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, well, then it's faint on this end, on my end.
Something's missing there. So, Therese, you and presumably Heath is around somewhere, although he's maybe not back from his burrito yet. So you are our test case audience. You're our crash test dummies. So I'd love to have this. This is an interactive. I know that your voice won't be on this videotape, the Ustream, but it will be on the world as we know it, which is the voice, Blog Talk.
Yeah.
So feel free to jump in, please. Let's try and make this interactive. Ideally, you'd be either in the same room as me, or we'd have a visual. At this point, you're a disembodied voice on the end of the ether. So please embody yourself as strongly as you possibly can. Make your presence felt. I'd appreciate that.
Well, I'll tell you how about if I tell you how I came across open money in my
Good.
travels?
Let's do that.
Okay. So round about 2003, I got this notion that there was this thing called open source software. And,
Open source software.
I thought it was amazing. Because I'd spent my time with the proprietary staff, worked in the industry. And
yep.
I'm just looking, but I would imagine it was probably about 2006 I came across open money, probably through Michelle Bowen's wiki, the PDP wiki. And so I've been trying to wrap my head around it since 2006. So when I came across you guys on Blog Talk Radio, I just thought, I've got this wonderful opportunity to come in and learn more about what open money is. And that's what I've been doing for the past 5 weeks. And it's really terrific to have you guys here, because what I can do is ask questions such as, is open money taxable? If I have a transaction with somebody in my community, is that a taxable transaction? And so I can find out the little nitty-gritty about it. And what I've learned that I didn't realize as much as, let's say a few weeks ago, is that open money isn't so much as a system as it is an idea. And it seems to me what you're trying to do is you're trying to promote this idea so that people can go and create their own open money systems, and so that everybody has the knowledge of how they can interact with each other in an open kind of way. Would you say that's correct?
That's precisely it. Thanks, Therese. That really covers the bag. Because there is a big distinction between an individual currency, an individual social network, an individual barter or time bank or whatever, and the field within which every single one of those initiatives operates. That field is basically the field of open money. It's the field of the permission to permit with each other. It's our ability to say, hey, Therese, I'll do this for you, but I don't want you to pay me in cash. You're obviously short of it, or it would be easier for you to pay me in our community money, which I'll spend with Ernie, and then Ernie can redeem it with you. That is, you can fulfill your promise, your commitment that is implicit in the transaction with me, with somebody else, a fungible money, fungible within that network of players and those who agree to that set of interactions. Well, if we three can agree to a set of interactions under our terms, in our ways, provided we're not breaking any laws, tax avoidance, evasion. Avoidance is good, evasion is bad, provided we're not doing fraud, perhaps provided we're not misrepresenting ourselves and each other in some way, then this is a perfectly legitimate action. And it's the cornerstone of Western democracy is freedom of speech. That's for me to say, I think Therese is terrific and she did this work for me, and I'd say it was $400 value. In fact, I'll acknowledge Therese $400 for this work. And then if Therese can spend that with Ernie, and Ernie can redeem it with me, then we're all kosher. That's open money.
Yeah, and that's
now,
and the nice thing is that we are recognizing the value that each person provides.
Acknowledging each other's worth. Yes.
Acknowledging each other's worth, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a simple statement. It is our word in the world. And because we can do this in one network, it seems to be logically obvious that you can do it in 2, 3, 23, 545 if you like. Now, For some people, a few networks is plenty. For others, many networks will be an added functionality in their daily life and the way the world works. It's disappointing to me that so many of the advocates of community currencies don't seem to recognize that it's not about trying to find the best one or isolate themselves in another little walled garden, a little island inside the archipelago, but rather to link themselves in a context. Before the internet, there was AOL, CompuServe. Before those, there were hundreds of little bulletin boards and networks, and they were all profoundly valuable and interesting, and they were uncommunicative with each other. And when internet came up, it became suddenly possible through that generalized protocol that we could all interact with each other. So that's really where we're going with this. We're looking for a network for money, virtual money, community money, personal money, the money that we introduce into the world, that is as ubiquitous, accessible, as technically transparent as the internet is. And just in the same way the internet has created the World Wide Web and social networking and all sorts of facilities that did not exist. The simplest one being the email group. Before the network of many networks that internet is, an email group was really a trivial thing inside your local network. Maybe your university, maybe your corporation. You could have small singular networks were very particularly organized. Well, now with internet, we can have millions of networks which are as specific to the particulars of the people who want to participate as they want. Same thing with community money. We're introducing a field, and that's what open money is. It's a wide open idea. It's an obvious idea. It's a bit like when Newton felt the apple hit him on the head. He didn't say, I have created, discovered, or whatever, or I own gravity. And he said, oh, look at that. You know, everything sucks. And that's more or less where we are with open money. We're saying, there's a field here. Do with it what you will. And it's been around us forever. The history of society and community has led to thousands of instances of created currencies. Well, now let's do it and do it for real. And stop messing around with the little one-by-one processes. They are embarrassingly stupid, disabling. It's really sad. Let's get our feet moving. Now, with that, can I just roll through the simple aspects of what community currencies are in the basis of what's wrong with conventional money or what's inadequate about it, something we can all agree on. Now, on the Now of Money, on this board on the wall here that you can see, I've shown that there's the diff. What it does, what it is, and where it's wrong. If you examine what conventional money is and does and where it comes from, but what it does is it moves. If money doesn't money, if I can't buy something with this piece of paper, then it's trash. So a monopoly bill is not a money. A dollar bill is. And how do I know the difference? One will buy me bread, the other one will get me a good laugh sometimes. So if it moves, if I can exchange this empty little piece of paper, or this item of record, this transaction through my credit card, if I can translate that thing from me to you, and you will then give me the loaf of bread or the tires for my car or whatever, then that was a money, and it moved. And that's the core function of conventional money, and all monies, is to move. So what it does is it moves. Now, the important thing about conventional money is it moves anywhere. It goes everywhere. It's not stuck to one place because it is valuable. That's its nature, is to be valuable. It's the biggest thing for a monetary theory, to get value into our money. Central banks, how do we preserve the value of our national dollar, national pound, whatever? So it has to be valuable. And that means what it is necessarily scarce. It's got to be scarce, otherwise it won't be valuable. It'll just inflate like the Zimbabwean whatever it is that's gone berserk recently. So many other currencies throughout the history of the universe. They're overissued, they lose value. The thing that maintains their value is the concept of limited issue. And what that means is it's got to be issued by an authority structure. And the simplest way to say that is the money comes from them. Now those are the three criteria. Conventional money moves anywhere. That's why it's good in the store of value, in the means of exchange areas. They will go anywhere as a means of exchange because it's a reliable store of value. Because it's considered a reliable store of value, of course, it has value, you don't. So the money in your pocket, once you've spent it, isn't yours anymore. It went somewhere else. And it's acceptable because it doesn't depend upon you. Nobody turns around to you and says, what is the US dollar worth today, Therese? You know, what are we doing with our Canadian buck up here? What's the euro doing, and what are you doing about it? Well, of course, you're doing nothing about it. It's stuff that passes by. You get it, you spend it, you get it, you spend it. Because the core, and here I shift to my first graphic switch, which, of course, in the course of time will fluid, peaceful, merged. This is our situation, and I draw the tank with the level going up and down, and with the money coming in, and money comes in, your level goes up. Money goes out, your level drops. That single graphic, money in a bucket going up and down. We stand between the income and the outgoing. As the money comes in, we rise. As money goes down, goes out, we live with the level. If the level is high, we have choices. If the level is low, we don't. That's the key characteristic of our relationship to conventional money. It's not our money. It's just stuff that passes by us. Makes it useful for us. We can buy things with it. But as soon as you've spent it, it's gone. And that takes us to the second characteristic of this money that makes our lives interesting, impractical. And that is the nature of the linkages between all of the barrels, all of the tanks, all of the protagonists with normal money. Reaching quick graphics, which will be done by my team of graphic experts. Here's my barrel, my tank in the middle. Here's another tank, and there's another tank, and here's another tank, and here's another tank, and here's another tank, and there's another tank, and there's another tank. I'm stuck in the middle of a field of tanks. Tanks to the left, tanks to the right, tanks above, tanks below, tanks for the memories, tanks, tanks, tanks. All these tanks. And what is the flow? Well, there's flows all over the place. But the ones that really interest me are the flows that trigger in and come down to me. Maybe they go through here. Maybe come there and there and there and into there. Maybe it's thus. So all sorts of income flows to my tanks. And, of course, all sorts of outflows. Now, this is me in the middle between what comes and what goes. And that is the condition that we all live in. And the biggest problem with it is not that it doesn't work. It's very well to do what it does, which is create a sort of carrot and stick, dog eat or die, asset-based, property, got to be this way model for the economy. It's not the only model we could have, but this is the one that dominates our world at the moment. And in my barrel world, with regard to money coming in to me, perhaps as an employee, perhaps as a sales organization, perhaps as a corporation, I'm interested in getting as much money in as I can, because it's all going out, so I can't afford to be slack about getting it in. How do I get it in? Well, I get as much in as I can for as least output. If I can sell my product for $50, that's better than selling it for $40 in in my basic terms. I'd rather get more money for what I provide. So maximize my income for my giving of real things. The other economy, what do I spend? Well, you bet I want the biggest bang for my buck. I want to get as much as I can out of every dollar because, hey, if I give it away, is it coming back? No way. So my attitude on both sides of these exchanges is similarly alienated from the other participant. Sure, I'm good to do business with you, but I want as much as I can get for as little as I can give. Both sides of the discussion. Pernicious social pattern. Inevitable. Keeps us all in line in various ways, but look at the line that it keeps us in. Okay. That's the game. Now, where lies the problem? The problem is, when you spend money in this world, you're saying goodbye to it. The money here is government money, banking money, institutional money, other money. It is not your money. It's not my money. It's just the stuff that comes in and out. I'm hearing somebody on the headphones here. Is somebody saying something to me? Are you speaking? Ernie?
No, that was me. Sorry.
All right. Maybe Heath. Are you there yet, Heath? No, I'm not hearing.
No, Heath is eating his burrito and and checking in on the delay between Blog Talk and Ustream.
Okay, so Heath is crash testing the dummy on screen. Good. Okay. So, basic problem is you spend it, it's gone. You with me on that, Therese?
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Have you ever met anybody in the world that you think would disagree with that particular context? The money you got comes from somewhere else. It goes away when you spend it, and there's no reliable expectation that when you've parted with it, it's going to remember who you are and come back.
True.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We've got so used to that concept that we take it for granted. Money is a disembodied abstraction that's alien to us and is on its way away. It comes, it goes. We live by it. Our flows are critical to our being. Why do you work for a living? To get the money. So why? So that you can spend, so you can live. I need the place to live. I need a car to get me from the place to live to the place where I work. One box to another. To and fro in the boxes to get the money to make a living. And wouldn't it be nice if that money came back? That's the simplest idea we're talking about here. This stuff's gone. There's nothing we can do really to change this. Well, you change your government, change your banking regulations, change all sorts of fine-tuning on the theories of what interest might or might not do. You can play forever in there. It's going to be a hard job to get those changes to run. There's about 5.9 billion people who are immediately uninterested in changing the current game in case they lose or gain some of their current situation. Everybody's very nervous about it, as you probably noticed from the recent political economic crises. So you can either struggle with that, as the monetary reformers would, as the politicians would, as the what I call the flat earth theorists would, the gold bugs, the silly people of that world, or you can say, look, how about we create a money that goes round and comes back, the simple there and back and round model, so that in addition to surviving with the little barrel of money that doesn't come back, I also have an imaginary barrel right beside it, an imaginary tank with a level that similarly goes up and down. And when it goes down, it's because I've spent money to somebody else's little imaginary up and down tank, who may have spent it with somebody else's up and down, who will spend it with somebody else's up and down, who will spend it with, and so on. And basically, by some mysterious process, quite simply that it cannot leave the network of the 20 or 20,000 players who are using it, what I spend comes back to me. Critically, let's not just use one currency, but here's another one. similarly that I spend, and somehow or other it comes back, and comes back to people. Now, the flat question is, if you're in this blue barrel, throughput, and so what damage can it do you to add on to that green currency that goes around your neighborhood, an orange one that goes around your, a purple one that goes around your professional society, another one that goes around your school network, your kids in the high school, part of the band, part of the athletics, part of this, that, and the other. There should be a money for the kids. So how many different monies do we need, do we want, to augment multi-tribalism, our neo-tribal experience in the world? Not tribes of isolation, not I belong to these guys, I hate everybody else, they cannot be in mine, and if I leave this one, I am excommunicated or something. Now I'm talking about the sort of the tribalism where I have a set of associations with the people that I work with, I have a set of associations with my neighbors, I have a set of associations with my children's neighbors and friends, I have a set of associations with maybe the musicians that I appreciate, maybe the software writers that I work with, etc., etc., etc. How many tribes? Let me count the tribes. How many do we want? For instance, Therese, given any thought to how many tribes you belong to? Give me a count.
I belong to, I would say maybe 20.
Good for you. I love it when people know the numbers are valuable. 20. 20 is.
I'm a multifaceted individual.
Great. And as an individual, 20I. Most individuals we expect to be comfortable with, say, between 5 and, obviously, a local one. That's the main engine. And the regional one that takes you outside the sort of the closure of your village or town or of your city and allows you to cross the other side of the city or go north of your town to another one or something. And so you've got a regional currency. And obviously, people will look for a close neighbor currency. I'm swapping tools and help around the yard with my neighbors. And equally, there's the child support. If we've got kids, and I'll babysit yours, if you'll babysit theirs, if they'll babysit his. That sort of network. And then you've got, this sort of school, college, etc., etc., etc. And for most people, 4 or 5 rising to 10 will cover everything. Now, it's sort of like the long tail thing. There's going to be a fat set that you use a lot of your transaction time in. I mean, you only have 24 hours a day. So many days a week, so many days a year. And so you can't be running thousands of dollars of income and expenditure in all these currencies. You're limited by the amount of time that you have. And probably you'll still spend 60-70% of your time in the cash economy, maybe 10 or 15 in your local currency, maybe 5 in your regional, maybe 3 or 4% in your neighbor net, maybe 2 or 3 in the school. Who knows? But there'll be a sort of a main body of main activity and then progressively smaller applications of different currencies after that. For you, for me, 5, 10, 15, 20. For the small business, who's, say, on the borderline between 5 or 6 in the city, they're in the south side, but obviously there's this group, that group, the Chinatown, the local school, high school, sponsorship network. A small business could be in dozens, maybe hundreds. And certainly if you're a supermarket or a major national or international corporation, expect very large numbers of currencies to be part of your income and expenditure mix. Now, a few people are going to run screaming for their calculators and say, how the hell can I handle 45 currencies? I can't even handle one. Well, the difference between the 45 and the one that you're dealing with is that the one you're dealing with is a persistent problem. You've got to have it in your bucket, otherwise you can't spend it. If it didn't come in from your paycheck, you can't make rent. So there's constant anxiety about where's my level? Can I live it through to the end of the month? What's happening next? Oh my God, my dental bills. That's the problem. Because you spend it, there's nothing to do with what can come back to you, as we're finding out in the current credit crisis. However, with local, with the spin-arounds, I spend it, it's there to earn. It can come back. Nobody's on my case about, oh, you owe me $40, pay up, go find it, sell your firstborn, sell your house. No. It's, okay, you're negative 50 or 100 or $1,000 in your community currency. That just means that you've got an obligation to the community at large, if you wish to retain your credibility in it, to make good on your promises. Progressively, gradually, or rapidly, it's up to you, but in, out, it comes around. The key distinction with this money, though, is it's always there. It's easy to earn. And instead of the old problem, which is I spend it and it doesn't come back and I'm struggling, in this one, I spend it with perhaps more difficulty than spending current money. Conventional money is dead easy. You spend it like, poof, it's gone. Everybody wants it. A localized currency, a community group, a smaller network, you've got to be a little bit more polite, politic, negotiable, and you've got to expect that not everything is purchasable in it. You can't, for instance, necessarily buy air tickets to Australia on your local neighborhood network. Of course not. But you can use the local neighborhood network for the things that you couldn't otherwise do. Now, that variety of difference, you can spend it and be assured that it's coming back, and you don't have to monitor them like a bunch of delinquent credit cards. Believe me, that's a hell of a life. This is very different. Managing 43 is run like being suspended by 43 balloons. You know, those helium balloons drifting off into the distance. There's a similar quality to this. Management of community currencies is not a problem, although it may often be perceived as it. It's actually dead simple. Let it go. Let it roll. It will come back, and if you're willing to earn it, then you're in a good position to keep spending it. Literally, we can spend ourselves into employment with this money. Absolutely into employment. Okay, well, that's a summary of the whys and the wherefores. Maybe, Therese, you've got some reflections on that, and we'll talk about that for the blog talk, even if it doesn't show up on the Ustream for a while.
Sure. Yeah, I just thought that phrase, send ourselves into employment. Mm-hmm. That last time. I've got to write that down for myself. And what I really like about these community currencies is not only is the person who's creating value by offering to mow a lawn, so that person is creating value, but it's also the person who's accepting that person, that the lawn cutter, is valuable. So it's kind of two people have to agree in order for this transaction to take place.
That's right. It's profoundly social, and the value to be created, the value that is created, the value that is recognized, is the real thing that happens between people. The loaf of bread or the massage, the haircut, whatever it is. The real thing that is marked, acknowledged, recognized, accounted, recorded through the community currency. It's a nice marriage between the reality of a real thing economy in what they call the meat space that is enabled and facilitated by this virtual, this systemic network of information. It's that we can know the quality of our economy and create the quality of our economy by our willingness to recognize each other. That's a bit different from the usual process.
Yeah, it is, because it's about making, let's say, some tacky wooden ornaments. And these wooden ornaments, yes, I'm spending a lot of time making them, but they really don't have any value, and nobody's willing to recognize the value. Then maybe I'd better spend time making something else.
And be able to do so. I mean, so much of the the wood world, this is a silly thing I'm doing, but I got to do it to make some money, is a consequence of the deprivation of cash. One day he's a fine machinist, or somebody's an excellent administrator, or a great framer and carpenter. And then because there's a change in the price of oil, or the local mining project dies because of a change in foreign exchange or the NAFTA rules or whatever, all of a sudden I'm unemployed, I'm a burden on society, I'm useless in some way, and I have to compete with a whole other class of society, the working poor, and there are a lot of us who are both working and poor, to scramble for the leavings of the rich and famous. Well, if it's wooden ornaments that do it, that's great. If it's undercutting my costings so that I'm willing to work for minimum wage and below because I absolutely need it, and all that means is that other people are forced to work at minimum wage and below to be in the same competitive area, then it's the great race to the bottom. And that's where all the wooden ornaments are, I'm afraid. These are not reflections of the quality of our being, our creativity, our relationship, our potential. And they certainly don't reflect the work that actually has to be done in our society if we're going to survive the next 50 years. So, time to get off the silly money and get on to the real stuff.
A lot of that work is stuff we do every day, like looking after children, creating food, maybe doing something in the community such as teaching each other something, or providing, elderly care. And,
the simple ongoing maintenance of our world.
A lot of those things, if a lot of those things, we're not compensated for them at this point. So
they're not accounted
because we feel obligated. No.
Yeah. They're regarded as external, discounted. They're taken for granted. It's despicable what our bean counter economic rationalization has done to the recognition of the true fabric of society, the nature of relationship, the nature of our interaction with each other. Quite appalling. I'm looking for. You also think
employment in general. Employment in general. So thinking that the only way that I can make a living or have money in my pocket is through employment, and for most of us, and I think that's the reality for most people. And I might be working, let's say, in a fast food place. Is that the best use of my know? Probably not. But that might be the only job that's available to me right now.
And you got to do what the
of people's potential.
Utilization and misapplication. Right at the moment, for instance, the tar sands in Canada are a very, very mixed issue. Everybody with any intelligence about the issues of global warming and carbon is saying, for God's sake, stop it. But at the same time, it's about the only thing in Canada that's making any money at the moment. And it's drawing employees from all over Canada to go to northern Alberta to destroy because, after all, it gets me on the gravy train. I get good wages while I'm up there, and maybe I can come back and buy a house in the community where I live that's gone destitute because there's no economy locally, which is why most of us are up in northern Alberta, Fort McMurray, doing damn fool things to the detriment of the universe and the society because we need the money. The misapplication of human effort is the worst part of this whole game. Or, arguably, there's so many ways of looking at the problems. So yes, if this was a great, just carry on.
And that is this notion of going into debt in a community currency. So if you've mowed my lawn for me and I'm now down $40 for you mowing my lawn, I've given it to you. Is there how does it get decided how far people can go into debt in a community currency? Is that something that's decided when the currency is set up? And
yeah, that's very much a question of the rules of the game. You know, is this poker with no limit or poker with a limit? I mean, that's really the simple level on it. Now, prior to that, though, I've got to catch one word. You said debt. Debt?
Uh-huh.
Whoa! Now, you see, the thing about debt is that it's a very strong word, and what it means is, suppose you lend me $50, Therese. Then I have a debt to you of $50. Now, do you have the 50? No, you lent it to me. You don't have it. So you're in a position of deprivation and risk. You don't have the spending capacity, and you may never get it because you can't trust everybody. You know that, right? So you lent me 50. You're at risk and in prayer. I'm in trouble too, because why did I borrow the 50? I didn't borrow it to keep it in the desk drawer so I could give it back to you tomorrow. I borrowed it to spend it. So I did. So I don't have it anymore. So I'm too. Now that means I've got to go out now and get this silly job, I don't know, a greeter at Walmart or something like that, so they've got the money to pay you the 50. And until I've paid it back, both of us are in trouble. Now, this is the form of trouble that our society regards as the credit engine driving mechanism that makes us all happy. It doesn't. It makes us all crazy. We're all running like silly buggers to resolve the jeopardy that the debt system puts us in. Now, by comparison, in a community currency on a mutual credit up and down level, if I buy something for you for 50 local dollars, I'm not in debt to you. I just paid you. All right? And you have 50 local dollars, which you can spend anywhere within this network. So you are not disabled. You're not locked down. You're not prevented from action by this. You're actually enabled. So my commitment of $50, and that's the word we use, I acknowledge to raise $50. That makes me in $50 commitment, and you are in $50 of credit. Okay. Now, that commitment is my promise to the community. In fact, it's my promise really of myself. Nobody in the community can come knocking on my door and say, Michael, you said. Well, they can, but whether or not I respond is up to me. That's the autonomous choice that I have. I issue a money. I've made a promise. I've got to be careful that if I constantly tell people, no, I don't care. No, it's not important to me. I'll see you next month when I've got more time on my hands. Then I'll maybe be running a risk. If, on the other hand, I say, oh, yeah, sure. Say again, sorry, Trace?
It's your reputation. That's it.
A reputation, yeah, absolutely. Reputation, relationship. Now, about 10 minutes ago, you did make a line about how the value of this money lay between the people that created it and interact with it. And that is the real point. A community currency has no value to anybody outside the community. You've got to be a part of this community to recognize its value. And it's that recognition of value, the honoring of it, that makes this an interactive person to person, person to business, business to business, business to person. You know, it's a network of, I don't say trust. That's another word you've got to be real careful with in this business. Trust is not what makes this work. In fact, we always tell people that they should never trust these systems. What they should do is use them with care and attention and as much confidence as the system justifies. But trusting is a really pernicious social behavior in that the consequence of trust is often distrust. You know, I trust you to come through with this, and then you don't, and then we're both in trouble. Whereas if I say, it'd be great if you came through with this, but I'm not going to rely upon it, I'm not going to mortgage my world on the possibility that you may or may not come through. Well, that gets us out of trust and into interaction and experience, confidence, the product of our engagement, rather than the risks of our disengagement. Another little diversion. So those are the I think we touched upon. I'm just returning to the now of money thing because otherwise Ernie will go spare about how we're not talking about the right things we're supposed to be doing on this groundbreaking broadcast to the universe. The now of money. What?
You're doing fine.
Ernie speaks.
He said fine.
Ernie says I'm doing fine. We're doing fine. But you notice we've covered main issues. One is normal money goes away, and he agrees with that. Nobody's ever been able to sort of step outside their tank and say, well, no, this isn't true. I can do this in a room of 20 people. I haven't had a room of 20,000 people. Well, maybe one day these things will happen. But you can sort of put out who around here does not fit inside this tank farm, in this flow, this cascade, this trickle down, trickle through, trickle away package. And you'll always find every intelligent human being in your room agrees, yep, this is us, this is where we are, this is what we're stuck with. So that's number one. Using a conventional money with the value vested in the money and all the institutional securities and controls around that, using that money leaves us in jeopardy. Because it's our drug, we've got to have it to live, but as soon as we spend it, it's gone and we need another fix. It's the in-out fix. We're stuck with a commodity that's in competition between all of us, and we're fighting for it because we've got to. That's the name of the game. It's so well understood that it's a sine qua non. Everybody gets it. Duh, why are you talking about that? Well, we're talking about that to draw the distinction to the other option. An additional way to play. Not exclusive, not alternate. Just, if you can have this money, the old hard stuff, and survive at all, then it will pay you to also use monies parallel to that, junction with it, that make your life easier because you spend them and they come back. And as you spend on local money, that which you bought with it, the loaf of bread or the haircut or the car repairs, you didn't spend cash, which means that you've still got some cash. And that may be very important for your mortgage, for the baby needs new shoes side of the economy. Or if you're a business, for the redevelopment, for the staff wages, for whatever it is. You can't afford to throw cash away. You've got to be real tight with it. But you can be very generous and effective and fluid with this community money because you spend it, it goes around, and it sort of just comes back. One of my fantasies about this is sort of, so you're on the stage and there's the theater and there's the stalls, below you, the people that you can see below the level of the stage, and there's a people up there. Well, if you imagine those people up there are the people who spend money on you, they're your customers or your employers or your mutual funds or whatever. That's where your money comes from. When you spend it, it goes to the people in the stalls. There's my butcher, my baker, my candlestick maker. These are the people I trade with. And so my life is between the gallery, it comes to me, and the stalls, I spend it out. Conventional model, it's gone. In our little strange world of currencies, everything that I receive from the gallery and the stalls somehow or other percolates, recycles, refluxes up to the gallery. It's not for me to know all the interactions that A does with B and Joe with Mary and Fred with General Motors or whoever so that it circles around. But all the protagonists in my local currency, in all my community money systems, are part of this cycle of round and round. How does it get back to me? I don't know. It's like a big sort of smoke ring. I spend the money, it goes round, it comes back. Now, those two key characteristics are the two core means of open money. That stuff goes. This stuff goes round. The flat stuff, the hard stuff, the old stuff, the conventional stuff, the limited supply stuff, the commodity stuff, it's always a problem, either a big problem on a global scale or a national problem, or if you create one of these little commodity currencies in your locality, that's the same damn problem. Who's got it? Where is it? How do I get my piece? Am I in control? No, it is in control. All these script issues, the Ithaca Hour ideas of the last 20 years basically have been little replications of the national money and have the same problems that the national money does. How do you manage it? How do you control it? Who's got it? Where did it come from? All that stuff. So that's all in one bag. Conventional money, commodity money, money as thing with value. The money we're talking about is money as relationship, money as network, money as the vitality of our common wealth, the interaction that we create with each other by our social living. Those two are enough to roll this thing forward. We don't have to fight banks. We don't have to bitch about the evils of interest or the impropriety of the central banks or the wrongness of the political policies or the evil of the externalities. All of these things are relevant in various ways and matter. It's just that, what are you going to do about it? Well, I encourage you to carry on doing whatever you're trying to do about it, but in addition, I invite you to use your own money in your own world. And it's really as simple as getting your head around the concepts of open money. As far as you need, you don't have to go deep into it. You don't understand gravity and it seems to work. You don't understand breathing and it works. Tell me how your heart beats. Who knows? Do you understand balance? Oh, we couldn't explain it to anybody, but we use it all the time. We live with this stuff because we have an adequate appreciation of it and how we work with it. So it shall be with community currencies, with open money. We're going to find out how we can live rather than continue to suffer this peculiar alienation that our culture has really suffered, particularly in the last 200-300 years. I mean, I'm not saying it was great 500 years ago, but the money problem, other things were lack of technology, lack of social evolutions, education, politics, etc. The usual old power struggles. I'm bigger than you, so it's my game. You play it my way or I beat you to death. That's the way the world used to work. Still does in a lot of worlds, a lot of places. But we now have the opportunity to start working with each other, playing with each other, living with each other in a context of mutual support, collaboration, and consent. A different way to live. And it's based entirely on these two things. The money that rules us, the hard stuff, is an in, out, gone away. Doesn't like you, doesn't know you, doesn't remember you. It's not your money, really. It was just stuff passed by. The other stuff we're talking about, the soft money, the circulating money, the to and fro and back and forth, in and out, you to me, to him, to backwards, round and round, all our community, that is the life of society. Actually, it's not the lifeblood, it's the neurology. The lifeblood is the individual energy and activity and purpose and choice. Because if nobody does anything, nothing happens. And if nobody wants to do anything, nothing's going to happen. It's the wanting, the willingness to provide, to serve, to receive, to interact. That is the energy. Open money and community currencies merely facilitate and enable that. Ernie coined the phrase the perpetual money machine. Anybody who's an engineer, and many who are not, know the futility of the concept of the perpetual motion machine. You can't get energy out of nothing. That's why perpetual motion is a fantasy. But a perpetual money machine is not. Because the energy, the impetus, the power of it derives from people's willingness to be and interact and give and take, benefit from what they've got, and they can pass on to others. And I'd better pass on what I've got, otherwise I can't get much of the things that other people have got to offer. So if I'm a brain surgeon and I want my house painted, I'd better give you a frontal lobotomy or something like that. I see my tape is about to run out. It's flashing at me. So one part of this broadcast, the part that we can one day present in high definition, high quality, is about to fade. But the rest
Yeah,
still runs.
and so is Blog Talk.
Recording on
Michael.
Ustream.
So is Blog Talk. You got 5
Coming
minutes.
to the end of the click, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well,
and
then,
we can cut it off in time.
you're
Actually,
fine.
we don't
You
have
lead
to
the
go to the bit
conversation.
again.
We will go until Therese has finished her questions or her comments. After all, we can carry on even if Blog Talk stops.
But probably ones that are not going to be answered in 5 minutes. And one of the questions was the question of taxation and the ridiculousness of the government. Well, we won't get into the silly idea of income tax and whether our tax dollars are actually being used for the benefit of our society. But think that if a community currency is going to be taxed, then that not be in real dollars, and that should be in community dollars. And we could say, hey, well, let's take 10% of the community dollars that we make, give that to an agency, and the agency could send that back to the community. For example.
This is very appropriate.
Question that we could, it's probably a bigger question that we could save for another.
It's a very big question, and you've answered it completely. You know, like taxation is our ability to keep the continuity of our wider society effective. Now, it's been misused and misapplied, and that's a lot to do with the competitive context of our money world. But wouldn't it be nice if the taxation on my local currency was attributed in a payment of that local currency? So my provincial or national government would build up lots of Comox Valley dollars from the Comox Valley community activity, but they could only spend it in the Comox Valley. Yeah. And we could, in fact, get into tax voting with this. And this is a proposition I actually made to the Minister of Finance of British Columbia in the fall of 1982. When we first introduced these ideas and were exploring them, I was able to get a meeting with the Minister of Finance, and I explained to him that tax was not a problem. We recognized our relationship to the constitutional situation, and we were happy to be able to pay taxes because we had an economy that would support it.
Yep.
And at this point, sure, taxes in cash on our transactions, but later, let's have it in the local money and let's make it tax directive so that people can actually vote with their tax dollar for the society to use. Could be fun.
Yeah, you could pick, let's say, 10 server organizations within your community and decide which ones you're going to give to.
Exactly. And, you know, that would be a progressive filtering in.
Yeah. But I think you need
because it could be quite unstable. It's a long process of education before a society will be subtle and responsible about that. I mean, most of us in the broad society, when offered where to spend money on taxis, would say a new football stadium or something like that. You know, we've got to get a bit more smart about what we do.
Yeah.
But eventually, I think self-directed taxation is real. Now, before it becomes self-directed taxation, we're going to see a lot of self-directed community support. The Community Way project is about initiating a process where community currencies are flowed to the support of community projects, non-profits, societies, charities, ventures, social ventures. And we suspect that this is going to become about 10% of the community currency economy is going to be donations to community projects by individuals, by businesses, by governments. They're going to use the community currency to support childcare, hospitals, schools, all sorts of things. And our benevolence will be...
1 minute.
1 minute, Michael.
The recording
The benevolence will allow us to... I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be fine after that. But this one, we've got another few seconds.
In terms of getting it on the record, this is 30 seconds. Say goodbye.
Ernie.
We're still here.
Okay. Well, there you go, folks. It's been a fascinating hour. Well, we've got another chat tomorrow on Thursday.
A good show.
Ernie, next show Thursday morning at what time?
10 o'clock, 10 a.m. PST.
Thank you very much, Ernie. There you go.
Okay.
Now, we're probably going to
That's
lose
with
Blog Talk.
people.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So,
And
we'll
so
call it a day on that one.
Yeah, we're not recording, we're not live streaming anymore, but we're still in the archive. So thank you very much.
We're
Michael.
on
I've gotten
Ustream.
even more clarity. Yeah, I've even gotten more clarity than I had before, and more little ideas popping into my head for how this could be of use. But I keep thinking of the fact that I'm an open source tuner, and how difficult it will be, and it must be, for people to wrap their heads around this stuff. And so, it's not just the system itself that would be the money system. It's actually each person who is participating. I guess I'll try to rephrase that.
Well,
that we might
we've got
the system as being a system of banks, but really it's the system of relationships between people. And the important thing is each person understanding what's going on.
Well, understanding enough, I think. I mean, again, I go back to the analogy of the bicycle. If we wouldn't let people get on a bicycle until they understood the principles of balance or whatever, we'd have nobody riding bikes.
Yeah.
Now, experience and comfort. And we want to introduce these monies to the general public as this money goes round. That money goes away. This one goes round. That's all there is to it. Try it and see. And that's why the community way concept is a good entry point, because it's very well stripped down to the bare essentials. Oh, I use this card instead of that. What are the benefits? Oh, this benefit and that benefit. Doesn't hurt, doesn't cost. Hallelujah, let's play. Because I think most of our society is really just, we're following the brake lights of the car in front. Most of us are not thinking very much. We're just getting through the day and doing what we do, and, that's the best. It's not that we haven't set out to destroy society deliberately. People I keep hearing this thing about we've all got to go back to the woods and learn to meditate like bears and fly like eagles, and then when we can do that, we will be like trees in our society and the world we want to. Well, I think that's just so much cant and nonsense and hypocrisy and stupidity and politically correct, spiritually correct caca. I don't buy it at all. I think basically most of society is benign. People want a simple, satisfying, nurturing, give and take, feel-good life where there's a bit of beer and there's a bit of bread and we get to hang out with our neighbors and play baseball occasionally. It's nothing complicated. Mm-hmm. But we complicate it all the time. Now let's give it a simplicity. Have some money that moves. Now, some will, of course, get deep into this and really work it out, and that's terrific. We want people to get really entranced with these ideas, but they don't have to be. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I've got a little Skype message coming up. Somebody trying to get me?
Perhaps we should pick this up again?
As well.
Sure.
Great talking with Therese.
Are you doing your regular Money Mondays? Are you going to do
Yes, we are.
Money Mondays?
I think we've almost cracked the technology now. This was last night was a disaster, and there were many good reasons for it. But it taught us an awful lot about multiple microphones in the same space. Here I am. I'm streaming. I'm actually recording still on Ustream, still broadcasting to it. I've run out of tape, so the tape is stopped. But and we're on Skype and the national phone lines all simultaneously. This is very encouraging. And with one other cable, I can include your voice in my Ustream. That's all I need is just a cable to put the Skype conversation into the audio space so that the Ustream microphone can pick it up. And then we've got a facility that we can just go anywhere with a camera and a couple of cables, and we can run a live TV and audio network with phone-ins. That's slick. So we're going to do it regularly. We're going to start picking our venues and our styles. The Comp Thursday morning is with the people in Portland who are looking at initiating a community way project there. So we'll focus in that one on the community way developments and how that works. It'll be a Q&A about that from people who are actually quite intimately involved now. They're jumping ahead. Looks like they might even have some basic core funding to move on it. Certainly by January they either will or they won't. Curious thing is that if they don't get the core funding, I think that's a very good reason for them to go right ahead. Don't know if they'll see it that way. So I'm happy to quit now, and thank you, Therese. Unless there's anything else you want to touch on immediately. But,
thank you.
Now,
we'll see you again.
Please recognize, Therese, that you've just earned. Yeah, you've just earned yourself an hour and a half of contribution to the cause.
Oh, hooray! Hooray! Well, that's great. I just gained an hour and a half of education.
Well, you contributed to a conversation that included not just your education, but your education of us. You know, the questions you raise educate the community of listeners and interactions. And if you're in the community currency world, the open money development process, and you're contributing in this way, your time is valued. No free rides. So what you've been doing today is a bookable earning in the ongoing record of who's putting their efforts behind community currencies in a positive and productive way. Think of the money you're earning, just like that, eh?
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I get back to cleaning and doing my daily work. So it was wonderful talking to you guys, and we'll talk again soon.
We will indeed. Bye, Therese.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Okay, Arnie, I'm going to cut my button, and then let's chat a few seconds, can we?
Okay.
Okay?
Yep. Yeah, maybe with Heath.
Well, I want voice.
Yeah, well, he can be on. Can't he be on? Can't we get him on voice?
What? Try him. You try and get him.
I think
would you?
it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. You're cutting out?
Cutting out.